Welcome back, Coinology. In the silence of an early morning, before the world fully wakes and before sunlight reaches across the quiet floors of forgotten basements and dusty collections, there exists a story whispered among collectors, historians, metalworkers, and treasure hunters alike. A story that begins not with gold or diamonds or ancient artifacts, but with something far smaller, far simpler, far more ordinary at first glance: a single 1-cent coin minted in the year 2008. A coin that, in its earliest days, slipped unnoticed through the busy machinery of the Denver Mint, glimmering under fluorescent lights as thousands like it were born. Yet one of these coins, a coinomatic history, that would eventually transform this simple coin into a legendary artifact capable of shaking the numismatic market to its core. But before it reached that point, before collectors spent years hunting, studying, analyzing, and arguing endlessly over its authenticity, its metallurgical secrets, its design quirks, and its exact minting circumstances, this little coin lived a quiet life. It traveled through pockets filled with lint, through cash registers filled with loose change, through the hands of strangers hurrying home, through desks, drawers, car seats, jars, and forgotten piggy banks. Its copper-plated exterior, gleaming with that warm reddish sheen, protected its zinc core while it endured friction, scratches, collisions with other coins, and the weight of time itself. And yet, despite all of that, its details remained remarkably sharp. The inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2008 stood boldly as they always had. The mint mark D just below the date confirmed its origin from the Denver Mint, a facility that had been responsible for billions of American coins throughout the decades. Those who understand the world of coins know that the tiniest visual detail can change everything. A misplaced serif on a number, a microcrack in the die, a doubling effect invisible to the naked eye, a misalignment, a plating bubble capturing air at the exact moment of striking, a chemical inconsistency in the metal. These minute characteristics can determine whether a coin is worth 1 cent, or 1 million, or, in the case of this extraordinary specimen, supposedly 40 million. Yet for many years no one noticed anything at all. To the world, it was just another cent, ordinary, meaningless, forgettable. But stories of astonishing rarity rarely begin with experts. They begin with ordinary people making accidental discoveries. And so, on a quiet afternoon in 2017, nearly 9 years after the coin was minted, a man named Aaron, an amateur collector with a cheap magnifier he had purchased online, sat at his small kitchen table sorting through jars of change he had saved over the years. He wasn't a professional by any means. He didn't have specialized equipment. He didn't own expensive microscopes or rare coin books from prestigious institutions. What he had was curiosity and habit, a nightly ritual of sorting through coins, searching for unusual dates, mint errors, anything worth $1 or $2 above face value. He wasn't expecting to find anything life-changing. But life-changing discoveries don't schedule appointments. He reached into the jar, pulled out a handful of pennies, and spread them across the table. Most were scratched, dull, oxidized. But one penny, a 2008 D, caught the light strangely. Not brighter. Not shinier. Just differently. A subtle tone difference, a metallic warmth that felt almost too pure, too clean for a coin that had supposedly circulated for years. He picked it up, rolled it between his fingers, and felt the unmistakable smoothness of a well-preserved coin. He whispered to himself, that's weird. He placed it under his magnifier, expecting nothing unusual, but what he saw made him sit up straight. Near the rim of the coin above Lincoln's head was a microscopic ripple in the copper plating, too symmetrical to be random damage. The lettering on the word Liberty appeared ever so slightly doubled, but not in a way typical of common mechanical doubling. This doubling had depth, structure, a layered shadow effect that hinted at a true hub doubling error. Even more baffling, the thickness of the copper plating itself seemed slightly heavier. Not drastically so, but enough for a seasoned eye, though Aaron didn't consider himself seasoned, to notice that something wasn't normal. He held his breath and weighed the coin using a small pocket scale. The expected weight for a 2008 copper-plated zinc cent was 2.50 grams, with minor tolerance variations. But this coin weighed 3.11 grams. He blinked. He checked again. 3.11 grams. He checked once more. The number did not change. He whispered, "This can't be right, these aren't copper cents, unless this one is something else." In that moment, adrenaline surged through his veins. He grabbed his phone and searched frantically for information about off-metal errors, copper planchet errors, transitional planchet mistakes, unexplained weight anomalies. His eyes scanned pages of coin forums, error reports, auction listings, expert discussions. He discovered stories of rare 1982 transitional errors, 1943 copper cents, 1944 steel cents, 1999 white AM reverses, 1969 doubled dies, coins that had defied expectations and commanded staggering prices. But nothing prepared him for what he would uncover: rumors, legends, speculative threads from collectors who claimed that somewhere in 2008, a tiny number of cents, perhaps only 1 or 2, had been mistakenly struck on leftover pure copper planchets. A modern miracle, theoretically impossible yet persistently rumored. His heart pounded. No way, impossible," he kept repeating. And yet the coin sat in his hand, heavy, warm, with that unmistakable copper weight. He knew he couldn't trust his own excitement. People fooled themselves all the time. But he also knew that ignoring this discovery would haunt him forever. So he did what any determined treasure hunter would do. He took action. He drove across town to a small coin shop run by an elderly numismatist named Robert, a man known for blunt honesty and decades of expertise. When Aaron placed the coin in front of him, the old man didn't react at first. He simply picked up the magnifier, studied the coin carefully, and after several long, silent minutes, he finally exhaled a single sentence. "Where on earth did you get this?" The tone of his voice wasn't casual. It carried weight, the kind that only surfaces when something impossible has landed on the table. Aaron swallowed hard. "Just from my jar. I've had it for years." The old man didn't look away from the coin. His eyes sharpened. This coin shouldn't exist. For the next hour, he examined the coin under different lights, checked the weight on his precision scale, tested the sound of the metal by gently tapping it, an old technique used by experts to distinguish metal composition based on its chime. The coin produced a resonance that copper-plated zinc cents never produced. A soft, warm metallic ring. Pure copper. The old man's hands trembled slightly as he set the coin down. "You need professional authentication. Immediately. If this coin is real, if it is what I think it is, it could be one of the rarest modern errors ever discovered. Possibly, unbelievably, worth millions." The word hung in the air, millions. Aaron felt dizzy. The room felt smaller. The old man wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't selling a fantasy. He was speaking with the calm seriousness of someone who had handled rare treasures for 40 years, and so began a journey through grading laboratories, metallurgical analysis, hours of waiting, weeks of silence, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, the results arrived. The coin was analyzed using X-ray fluorescence, digital microscopic mapping, high-resolution 3D scanning, metallurgical breakdowns, and comparative strike analysis. The final report confirmed the impossible. The coin was struck on a pure copper planchet not used since 1982. Even more shocking, the doubling on Liberty and the subtle anomaly at the rim were determined to be genuine mint errors, not post-strike alterations. Collectors worldwide erupted in fascination. Forums filled with speculation. Experts debated how such a coin could have been minted more than 2 decades after copper cents were discontinued. Some theorized a leftover planchet had been trapped deep within the mint's machinery for decades, only to be freed during a routine cleaning or equipment shift in 2008. Others believed a rare experimental strike had occurred. A few whispered theories that no one dared repeat publicly, possibilities involving internal mint mishandling, unauthorized testing, or obscure transitional experiments buried in bureau. The moment the auction hammer struck and the hall erupted in murmurs of disbelief, Aaron felt a strange rush of sensations, not pure joy, not shock, but a dizzy, electrifying mix of relief, awe, accomplishment, and a vague fear of what came next. $40 million was more than a number. It was a force. A weight. A transformation. Something that rewrites everything you know about your own life. Reporters swarmed around him like waves collapsing on a beach. Cameras flashed. Microphones hovered. Voices shouted questions he couldn't hear clearly through the pounding in his ears. His world spun, yet the small coin responsible for all of this sat quietly in a sealed plastic holder, immovable, unchanged, as if mocking the chaos swirling around it. He stared at the transparent slab that held the coin, the tiny copper surface glowing under the auction lights. It looked so harmless, so small, and yet it had turned him into a global story in a matter of minutes. The lights on the ceiling reflected off the smooth plastic slab, casting faint circular glimmers that almost looked like halos hovering above the coin. It was surreal. Unreal. And in that moment, he wondered if maybe the coin itself understood its own importance. Coins, after all, endure longer than the hands that hold them. They witness generations, wars, rises, collapses. But this one carried power almost supernatural in its impact. Security guards escorted him out of the hall, not because he was in danger, but because the frenzy of people trying to reach him had become overwhelming. Behind them, he could still hear the distant roar of the auction room. He heard snippets, gasps, accusations, congratulations, bewildered laughter, and passionate debates. Some insisted the price was justified, a product of unprecedented rarity. Others argued it was madness, that no modern cent should hold such value. But the truth was simple: when something exists that theoretically should not exist, its value becomes immeasurable. As he stepped outside into the crisp night air, the city lights flickering across the pavement, he thought back to that quiet night at his kitchen table. The jar of coins. The magnifier. The simple, almost accidental curiosity that started all of this. His breath fogged in the cold. He leaned against the brick wall of the building and allowed himself to finally breathe freely. He closed his eyes and whispered, "What have I gotten myself into?" Meanwhile, across the world, as news of the sale spread like wildfire, millions of people began scouring their own coins. Social media exploded with videos, pictures, and claims of people believing they had found the next rare 2008 cent. Experts scrambled to respond to the avalanche of inquiries. Television segments aired about mint errors and rare coins. Even those who had never cared about coins before suddenly became amateur numismatists overnight. Search engines logged millions of queries about copper planchet errors, transitional strikes, mint anomalies, gravitational ring tests, people hungry to understand how a 1-cent coin could become a $40 million artifact. But while the world obsessed, fascinated, and speculated, very few people knew the deeper truth behind the coin's unbelievable origins. The public saw only the auction result, the sleek photographs, the dramatic headlines. But behind the scenes, in the silent vaults of the Denver Mint, some officials were not celebrating. Instead, they were concerned. Deeply concerned. Because if that coin was genuine and the authentication reports confirmed it was, then it meant something extraordinary had happened inside the mint. Something unrecorded. Something unexplained. And so, inside a secured office with concrete walls and no windows, senior mint metallurgist Karen Aldridge sat hunched over old internal documents, file drawers stacked high with faded blueprints, maintenance logs from decades past, archived shift schedules, old die records, even employee reports dating as far back as the early 1980s. The soft hum of the overhead fluorescent lamp was the only sound in the room. She rubbed her tired eyes and whispered to herself, how could a copper planchet survive this long? She traced her finger along a yellowing report from 1982, the year the transition from copper to copper-plated zinc occurred. That year, tens of billions of copper cents were produced before the composition change took effect. The mint had moved swiftly, but like any major industrial shift, mistakes were inevitable. Some leftover planchets had been found as late as 1983. But 2008? That was 26 years later. No leftover planchet should have remained through decades of equipment replacements, cleanings, renovations, and technological upgrades. Yet something had allowed it to slip through the cracks of history. Karen flipped through another binder, this one labeled Unexpected Material Findings, 1990 to 2005. Inside were reports of occasional oddities discovered during machine servicing, unusual metal shavings, ancient crusted debris stuck between conveyor belts, even a 1964 dime blank discovered in a corner once. It wasn't unheard of for old debris to become trapped deep inside industrial minting lines for decades. But a full, untouched copper cent planchet? That was beyond unlikely, she sighed, leaning back in her chair. Unless, she murmured. The thought forming in her mind was wild, improbable, and vaguely alarming. She opened another folder, this one containing accounts of experimental tests the Denver Mint had conducted throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s. Some tests involved alternative alloys. Some involved different strike pressures. Others were classified, visible only through redacted summaries. Her eyes widened. One particular report referenced copper discs used in metallurgical comparison tests in the early 2000s. These were not blank planchets intended for circulation coins, they were laboratory discs used for striking pressure experiments. Some were believed to have been recycled. But the records were incomplete, and the chain of custody logs contained discrepancies, missing dates, missing signatures, missing confirmations. If even one of those discs had been mistakenly fed into the circulation blank supply, it could have become the planchet that produced the rare 2008 copper struck cent. Not through age-old entrapment, but through modern misplacement. A silent, accidental merging between experimental material and production flow, the possibility made her heart pound. She whispered, that would explain everything. But she knew if this theory reached the public, controversies could erupt. People would accuse the mint of negligence, of hiding experiments, of lacking control over materials. It could spiral into scandal. And so the officials debated internally, should they make a statement or say nothing at all? They chose silence. Back in his home, far from debates, vaults, and analysis rooms, Aaron sat alone in his living room, the glow of the city light slipping through the blinds. His phone buzzed constantly, calls from reporters, offers from documentary producers, proposals from museums, even strangers begging him to check their coins for them. It was overwhelming. He turned the phone face down and stared at the sealed display case containing the official certification of the coin. On the table beside it lay stacks of paperwork, including his auction payment agreement and tax consultation documents, but what captured his attention most wasn't the paperwork or the certified slab. It was an old notebook he had used years earlier to record interesting coins he found. He flipped through it, page by page, until he reached the blank page before the back cover. Inspired by the magnitude of what had happened, he picked up a pen and wrote, "This coin changed everything. Not just for me, but for the world. And I don't think its story is finished yet." And he was right, because even as he wrote those words, as the world buzzed with excitement, questions, and theories, something else was happening, something he didn't know, something no one knew. The buyer of the $40 million coin, the anonymous figure behind the final bid, was not a collector. Not a museum. Not an institution. It was someone entirely unexpected. Someone with resources, hidden agendas, and a fascination with anomalies that stretched far beyond coins, and this mysterious buyer had plans for the coin, plans that would pull Aaron into a deeper, darker, more mysterious chapter of the story. A chapter that would uncover hidden histories, forgotten mint secrets, and an ancient belief that some objects, no matter how small, are destined for greatness. In the days following the astonishing auction, the world seemed to reshape itself around the legend of the 2008 cent. News channels kept revisiting the story, replaying the moment the hammer fell and the crowd gasped. Commentators argued endlessly about whether the value was justified, while economists attempted to rationalize the purchase using market theories and behavioral speculation. But none of these analysts could guess the truth, that the buyer was someone shadowed, someone operating far from public reach. On a cold, quiet morning, while the sun was still crawling across the horizon, the coin's new owner stood in a high-rise office overlooking the silent city. A tall figure, dressed in a black suit, wearing thin silver-framed glasses that reflected the faint blue glow of the computer screen before him. His name was Elias Rowan, though few people even knew he existed. A billionaire investor, a silent partner in technology firms, a collector of rare anomalies across the world. But his interest was never truly in wealth. His obsession was with history, specifically, with rare objects that carried unexplained stories or scientific impossibilities. Elias reached into a secure drawer and removed a small titanium case. As he placed it on the desk, he pressed his thumb against a biometric scanner, causing the lid to open with a soft mechanical hum. Inside, lying in foam casing, was the 2008 copper cent. The slab's reflection shimmered under the light as he lifted it carefully. He studied it with an expression that was not excitement, but curiosity. Deep, intense curiosity. The kind that comes from a mind hungering for puzzles hidden beneath the surface. He whispered to himself, almost inaudibly, "You are not just a mistake. You are a message." It was unclear who he believed the message came from, the mint, history, fate, or something else entirely. But Elias had spent years collecting unexplained anomalies, misprinted manuscripts from the 1400s, rare meteorites with unknown mineral compositions, ancient coins with strange metallurgical signatures, even experimental artifacts leaked from old scientific programs. To him, this coin wasn't just rare, it was a doorway to something larger. Meanwhile, far away, Aaron was still adjusting to the whirlwind of attention. Every morning he woke up feeling as if he were stepping into someone else's life. A life filled with lawyers, advisors, interview requests, offers to purchase his story, and countless people sending photos of pennies they found, pleading for him to confirm their value. He tried to be polite, tried to answer what he could, but he felt as though he was drowning under an ocean of expectations he never asked for. He sat in a small cafe one afternoon, sipping a cup of coffee and staring out the window, hoping for a moment of peace. The world outside moved normally, people rushing to work, cars stopping at red lights, birds swooping down for crumbs. But he felt detached from it all, like a spectator watching life happen to others while he drifted somewhere in between. His phone buzzed. He frowned and checked the screen. The number was unfamiliar, the area code foreign. He hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A calm, deep voice responded, "Mr. Aaron. I hope this is a good time." There was something about the voice, assured, composed, strangely soothing yet unsettling. "Who is this?" Aaron asked. The voice answered without hesitation. "My name is Elias Rowan. I was the buyer of your coin." Aaron's heart skipped. He had imagined the buyer countless times, an older collector, perhaps, maybe a museum director, maybe a billionaire with eccentric hobbies. But this voice didn't match any of those images. It felt different. "Oh. Congratulations, I guess," Aaron said awkwardly. The voice chuckled softly. "I didn't buy the coin for congratulations. I bought it because it holds importance far beyond monetary value. And I wanted to speak with you, because I believe you deserve to understand what that importance truly is." Aaron frowned. "What do you mean?" A brief pause. Then the voice continued, deliberate and calm. "Have you ever wondered why something impossible happened? Why a copper planchet from a lost era resurfaced precisely in 2008? Why it found its way into your hands? Why it remained in extraordinary condition despite circulation? Why the anomalies in the strike align so perfectly with certain historical signatures?" Aaron felt a twinge of confusion. "Historical signatures? What are you talking about?" "There are patterns in history," Elias replied. "Patterns hidden in objects rather than in stories. Your coin follows one of those patterns. And I would like to meet you, face to face, to explain it." Aaron didn't know how to respond. "Explain, what exactly?" The voice softened. "That the coin you discovered might not be the only one." Silence, time seemed to freeze as Aaron processed the words. Not the only one? The entire world believed his coin was unique, a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly, impossible to replicate. But this stranger was suggesting otherwise. Before Aaron could speak, Elias continued, I will send a car for you tomorrow morning at 9. You have nothing to fear. Only clarity to gain. And with that, the line disconnected and Aaron lowered the phone slowly, staring at it as if it still held the lingering echo of the mysterious voice. His heart thudded in his chest. The thought of meeting the buyer intrigued him, but it also frightened him. Questions swirled like a storm inside his mind. What did this man mean by patterns? Why did he sound as though he knew something the mint itself did not? And what did he mean by suggesting the coin was not alone? That night, Aaron lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the coin shimmering under the auction lights. Every sensation from the discovery returned, the thrill, the uncertainty, the fear of the unknown. Now the unknown was knocking again, this time through the voice of a wealthy, enigmatic stranger. Meanwhile, in his secluded high-rise, Elias Rowan placed the coin under a precision microscope connected to a multispectrum imaging rig. The machine hummed, scanning the surface at microscopic levels. Details that were invisible to ordinary graders, minute copper grains, strike pressure signatures, microfractures, began to appear in brilliant colors on the screen. Elias watched carefully, his eyes narrowing when he spotted an unusual marking near the rim. A marking so small it could not be seen without specialized equipment. A marking that resembled a faint diagonal line, no, not a random scratch, but something shaped. Something purposeful. His breath tightened slightly. He whispered, it's real, after all these years, it's real. He reached into a drawer and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Slowly, he unfolded it to reveal a coin unlike any known currency, an ancient bronze piece with an unfamiliar emblem, a pattern he had spent decades studying. And on the rim of this ancient coin, the same faint diagonal line. Elias closed his eyes, steadying his breath. History repeats itself in metal, he whispered, and far away, unaware of the storm he was about to step into, Aaron finally drifted into uneasy sleep, not knowing that tomorrow morning, everything he knew about his extraordinary coin, and perhaps even about himself, would change forever. Morning arrived with a pale, silvery light drifting through Aaron's bedroom window, the kind of quiet dawn that felt too calm for a day that promised answers, mysteries, and maybe dangers he didn't yet understand. He woke earlier than usual, his mind restless, replaying the stranger's voice in loops. He kept wondering what kind of person spent $40 million on a single cent. And more importantly, what kind of person believed it held secrets beyond ordinary mint errors. By 8:55 a.m., he stood outside his apartment building, wearing a simple jacket, his hands nervously tucked into the pockets. The city street buzzed faintly with morning traffic, but everything seemed muted compared to the pounding of his own heartbeat. At exactly 9 o'clock, a sleek black car, a luxury model he had only ever seen in magazines, pulled up quietly to the curb. The rear passenger door opened, though no one stepped out. A soft, courteous voice spoke from inside, Mr. Aaron. Please, come in. He hesitated only for a moment before sliding inside. The interior smelled faintly of leather and polished wood, and the windows were tinted so dark they swallowed the outside world. Sitting in the seat across from him was a man in his late 30s or early 40s, with calm eyes and neatly combed dark hair. His presence exuded a subtle control, the kind of composure that came from immense resources and an even greater sense of purpose. I'm glad you accepted my invitation, he said with a polite nod. I'm Elias Rowan. Aaron swallowed, trying to steady his voice. Why did you want to see me? Elias studied him for a few seconds, as though evaluating which explanation to begin with. Because you are connected to that coin in a way you don't yet understand, he said softly. What does that even mean? Aaron asked. Instead of answering immediately, Elias tapped the door lightly. The car began to move, gliding smoothly through the city streets. The silence between them felt heavy, almost ritualistic. Finally, Elias leaned back in his seat, folding his hands. Let's start with the simplest truth, he said. Your coin is not the only anomaly I've encountered. Not even close. Aaron stared. Are you saying there are other 2008 copper cents? Elias shook his head. No. Not that exact type. But there are other objects, coins, artifacts, metals, that follow patterns. Patterns so subtle they are invisible to most people. But they appear in very specific historical moments, often many years apart, as if orchestrated not by random chance but by a silent hand shaping events from the shadows of time. Aaron blinked, unsure what to say. Patterns? You mean minting errors? No, Elias replied calmly. I mean something far older than minting. Something older than the US Mint, older than modern civilization, older than recorded systems of currency. He leaned forward slightly. Let me show you. He reached into a small leather case beside him and pulled out a round, heavy object wrapped in dark cloth. As he unwrapped it, Aaron's breath caught. It was a coin, but unlike anything he had ever seen, a thick bronze disc weathered by centuries, its surface textured by time, its edges uneven, hand-struck rather than machine-made. The design on the face was a symbol that resembled the early sun patterns found in ancient cultures, though something about it seemed slightly different, almost familiar in its geometry. But what struck Aaron most was the tiny marking on the rim, almost identical to the faint diagonal line Elias had discovered on the 2008 cent. Aaron leaned closer. What is that? Elias answered softly, "This coin predates the Roman Empire. It belonged to a vanished culture that left almost no documented history behind. And yet this mark, this unique diagonal, matches the microscopic marking on your 2008 cent. Not similar. Identical." Aaron felt the air thicken around him. "But, how?" "That," Elias said, "is the question I've spent 20 years of my life studying." The car continued moving through the city, turning onto quieter streets as Elias continued speaking, his voice steady and calm. "Throughout history, certain artifacts appear unexpectedly, often centuries apart, yet they carry nearly identical signatures, striking patterns, microscopic shapes, metallurgical anomalies. Historians call them coincidences. Scientists call them manufacturing errors. But I've gathered enough examples now to be certain they are neither." He paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. "They are connections." "A connection." The word hung in the air like a suspended breath. Aaron shook his head. "Connections to what? Mint machines in ancient times? That's impossible." "Not mint machines," Elias replied. "Connections to events. To pivotal moments. To transitions in human advancement." He lifted the ancient coin closer to the light. This bronze piece surfaced during an excavation near an ancient trade route, just days before one of history's most important astronomical predictions was recorded. Another anomalous coin surfaced in the 16th century, just months before a revolution that reshaped Europe. Another in the early 1900s, just before breakthroughs that altered modern science. He placed the ancient coin gently into his case, then continued, "Your 2008 copper cent appeared in a year of global transition, financial collapse, technological leaps, geopolitical shifts. And it carries a mark that ties it to a lineage of artifacts that appeared during world-altering moments." Aaron's pulse raced. "Are you saying the coin is supernatural?" Elias smiled faintly. "Not supernatural. But unnatural in the sense that it defies normal chronology." Aaron felt his world tilting. "But it's just a penny." "Exactly," Elias said. "The most extraordinary things often hide in the most ordinary forms." Just then the car slowed. It turned down a long private driveway lined with trees, eventually stopping before a structure that looked less like a house and more like a research facility, modern, minimalistic, constructed of steel and dark glass. Elias stepped out first. "Come," he said. "There is something you need to see." Inside, the building was silent and cold, filled with equipment Aaron didn't recognize: laboratory machines, spectrometry devices, sealed storage vaults with biometric locks. They walked through several hallways until Elias led him to a large room with a reinforced glass wall. Behind the glass were shelves filled with artifacts: rings, tablets, old coins, shards of metal, strange tools, items retrieved from different periods in history. Each object had a small symbol marked on its label, the same diagonal marking. Aaron stepped closer. His voice trembled. "All of these have the same marking?" "Yes," Elias replied. "And each one appeared during pivotal historical transitions, just like your 2008 cent." "Why are you showing me all of this?" Aaron asked quietly. Elias turned to him, his expression grave. "Because the marking on your coin is the clearest, most perfectly preserved version we've ever seen. It is sharper, more precise, more deliberate. And because it appeared now, it means another shift is coming." Aaron's heartbeat pounded painfully in his chest. "A shift?" "Yes," Elias said. "And I believe your coin is the key to understanding it." The room felt unbearably still. Aaron forced himself to speak. "But why me? I'm nobody." Elias shook his head. "You are not nobody. You were the finder. And historically, the finder is always involved." Aaron swallowed. "Involved in what?" Elias stepped closer, his voice dropping. "In whatever comes next." Before Aaron could respond, a loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility, echoing in harsh, urgent loops. Red emergency lights flashed across the hallways. Guards rushed past them. Elias stiffened. "They found us." Aaron felt cold fear rush through him. "Who found us?" Elias turned toward him with eyes suddenly sharp and intense. "The ones who have been searching for these artifacts for centuries. The ones who believe the power of transitions belongs only to them." The alarm grew louder. Another distant crash echoed through the building, something heavy slamming against metal, something forcing its way in. Elias grabbed Aaron's arm. "We have to move. Now." As they began to run, the facility lights flickered, the sound of metal tearing in the distance growing nearer, and in that moment, as the shadows closed in around them, Aaron realized that his discovery, the coin he once thought was merely rare, was far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. As the camera slowly fades back in, the narrative continues with an even deeper exploration into the mysterious world surrounding the 2008 1-cent coin, a coin that many collectors once overlooked but now, in the unfolding layers of numismatic history, has become a centerpiece of astounding speculation, whispered rumors, and astonishing market rumors suggesting values that stretch far beyond anything logical, reaching toward the unbelievable figure of $40 million. The story grows more complex as we go further into the hidden corners of minting, collector obsession, rare material anomalies, and the wider economic story that turned a simple bronze-colored cent into something more like mythical treasure. And as the voiceover returns, the audience is transported back to 2008, a year that for the mint was routine on the surface yet full of unseen technical shifts that would later matter tremendously. During 2008, the United States Mint was operating with a strong focus on efficiency, but also dealing with the pressures of rising metal costs. Copper prices had surged dramatically through the early 2000s, making it more expensive to continue producing coins with the same metallic composition. Although the official composition of the penny since 1982 had been copper-plated zinc, only 3% copper on the outside and 97% zinc at the core, there were still occasional experimental strikes, transitional planchets, leftover metal blanks, and unexpected anomalies that occurred during the minting process. These anomalies are what collectors dream about because once in a while, one of these unexpected events produces a coin that shouldn't exist, a coin that is technically impossible under normal mint procedure, and yet somehow slips into circulation. A coin like that becomes not just rare, but legendary, valuable beyond the usual concepts of coin collecting. The 2008 cent in particular has a deeper aura around it because it sits at a point in American history where the economy was shifting dramatically. The financial crisis was beginning to take shape. Markets were trembling, banks were collapsing, and people were questioning the value of everything, from houses to jobs to currency itself. Against that backdrop, the penny, a coin that had been seen as nearly worthless in everyday life, suddenly became symbolic, almost poetic. And within that symbolism, collectors began to look back at certain years with a more careful eye. The pennies that were minted during the turbulent stages of America's economic cycle seemed to carry meaning, almost as though each coin minted during this period was a tiny time capsule capturing the uncertainty of the era. But the real fascination with the 2008 1-cent coin wasn't merely about economics or history. It was about the physical evidence found in rare specimens that shocked experts, baffled grading companies, and created waves of speculation across online auctions and collector forums. People began claiming sightings of 2008 cents that appeared to weigh more like the older copper cents from the pre-1982 era. Instead of measuring the typical 2.5 grams expected of zinc pennies, some privately reported specimens weighed around 3.1 grams, matching the copper standard that had supposedly been discontinued decades earlier. And while most of these reports could not be verified, a few intriguing cases went through professional examination. Metal composition tests allegedly revealed copper content higher than 3%, though still debated. These controversies became the fuel for endless discussions among coin collectors, drawing attention to the possibility that transitional errors or experimental strikes could have occurred in 2008. The speculative frenzy intensified when rumors emerged online claiming that one such rare 2008 copper-based specimen had sold privately for a staggering price. Some said $5 million, others said $10 million, and still others claimed the unbelievable $40 million. Whether the story was true, exaggerated, or completely fabricated, it didn't matter. What mattered was the effect. Collectors everywhere began checking their change jars, examining every 2008 penny they could find, weighing them, studying their rims, inspecting the copper shine versus the zinc tone, hoping to uncover a treasure hidden in plain sight. The idea that a single 1-cent coin could hold the value of a fortune, equal to a mansion, a luxury yacht, or even a small corporation, sparked a search like no other. Meanwhile, the design of the coin itself added another layer of fascination. The 2008 obverse still carried the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909. More than a century old by that point, the portrait had become one of the most recognizable designs in American monetary history. The subtle details, the curvature of Lincoln's cheek, the shape of the beard, the strong outline of the jaw were all elements that collectors had analyzed for generations. But in 2008, the minting presses were aging, and sometimes the dies showed slight variations as they wore down. These tiny deviations produced small but noticeable differences in the way the design appeared, differences in relief, strike strength, rim width, and even the micro details inside the letters. For seasoned collectors, these details were like fingerprints, clues that could reveal whether a coin belonged to a particular batch, a specific die, or even an error-prone production phase. And for the 2008 penny, the dies used in Denver and Philadelphia showed enough subtle variations to keep specialists busy cataloging newly discovered micro-varieties. Collectors began recording differences such as uneven plating, off-center strikes, weak strikes, doubling in the lettering of Liberty or the date, and unusual colorations that suggested inconsistent copper layering over zinc. These features didn't immediately guarantee massive value, but combined with the rising mystique of the 2008 copper anomaly, even minor irregularities suddenly became worth documenting. Auctions saw increased attention whenever a 2008 penny with unusual traits appeared, especially in high MS grades like MS67 or MS68, where the surfaces were pristine and the details exceptionally sharp. The desire for perfection, combined with the hope of discovering a rare metal composition error, pushed the demand further. Meanwhile, historical analysts looked deeper into mint documentation from the era. Some discovered that multiple shipments of metal blanks had been ordered in 2008, and into later production batches. And although the official mint records did not confirm any leftover copper planchets from pre-1982 storage, the sheer size of the minting facilities meant that mistakes were not impossible. After all, in 1983, unexpected copper pennies were discovered that should not have existed, and in other years, transitional errors had also surfaced. So the idea that a few rare copper-weight 2008 pennies might have escaped into circulation was not beyond sparked intense discussion among graders. These rare examples showed unusual metal density, abnormal coloration under spectral analysis, or microscopic patterns suggesting the plating was different from standard uniform zinc cores. The few coins that showed these unusual traits were not publicly displayed, adding to the mystery. Collectors whispered that the owners of these coins had chosen to remain anonymous to avoid overwhelming attention or intense bidding wars. The narrator continues with slow, suspenseful pacing, describing how numismatic researchers began tracing stories of individuals unknowingly possess a fortune in the form of a single penny. All of this contributed to a growing cultural fascination. The 2008 penny transformed from a tiny object most people discarded into something mysterious, something worth paying attention to. The narrator explains that the public's imagination is often captivated by stories of lost treasure, hidden wealth, and rare items that appear ordinary at first glance. The 2008 penny fit perfectly into that narrative, taking on Alleghenies in high grade were fetching higher prices than usual. This surge wasn't just about the coin's physical characteristics, it was about the story behind it, the rumors of rare metal compositions, the belief in ultra-rare specimens, the whispers of a private sale worth an unbelievable $40 million. Whether the story was true or not, it had a powerful impact on market behavior, and that allo. The story rolls forward with the same slow, immersive tone as the narrator begins describing how the most astonishing chapter in the saga of the 2008 1-cent coin began unfolding quietly, behind closed doors and in hushed exchanges among elite numismatists. The world of high-level coin collecting is one that most people never see: private showings in hotel suites during major conventions, discreet phone calls between wealthiest collectors, secretive negotiations taking place not in public bidding halls but in private offices and encrypted email chains. And it is within this shadowy part of the numismatic universe that the rumors surrounding the rare 2008 cent gained their deepest roots. As whispers circulated about a specimen believed to be struck accidentally on a leftover copper planchet, collectors with immense resources began seeking more information. They sent researchers to track down anyone who had submitted suspicious specimens for grading. They hired private metallurgists to analyze coins they believed to have potential. Some even attempted to contact former mint employees who worked during 2008, hoping to uncover internal explanations for how a copper-based penny could have been minted decades after the official composition had changed. The narrator's voice grows more intense as he reveals how former mint employees, though bound by strict confidentiality, occasionally hinted at the types of irregularities that could occur in production. They explained how millions of blanks move through the minting system at high speeds, how leftover metal stock could remain hidden in storage bins or mislabeled boxes, how automated machinery sometimes mixed different materials unintentionally, and how quality control sweep procedures, though advanced, were not perfect. These insights did not confirm any specific errors in 2008, but they made one thing clear: the minting process, despite its precision, was not infallible. And in its imperfections, legendary rarities could be born. At this point, the script lingers on the emotional intensity that collectors experience when chasing such a rarity. For many, collecting is not merely a hobby, it is a passion intertwined with identity, memory, and even their sense of life's meaning. A collector who spends decades hunting rare coins develops a deep personal bond with the objects they seek. When rumors arise about a coin so valuable, so elusive, so seemingly impossible as a 2008 copper cent worth millions, it ignites a fire that burns through the community like lightning. People who had never given attention to newer pennies suddenly became fiercely invested. Specialists who normally focused on 19th century coins found themselves analyzing modern issues. It was as though the 2008 cent had crossed the boundaries of normal coin categories and become something mythical. The narrator explains how the coin symbolism played an enormous role in this obsession. A penny, arguably the lowest value coin in modern American currency, is the last place anyone expects to find extraordinary wealth. Its value is so trivial that millions of people ignore them, drop them, leave them in drawers, or toss them into charity jars without a second thought. And yet, within that insignificance, the possibility of a $40 million treasure created a contrast so powerful that it was irresistible. It reminded people that sometimes the greatest surprises come from the unlikeliest places. That belief fueled countless hours of searching, weighing, comparing, and studying 2008 cents under magnification. The story deepens into the scientific side of the investigation. The narrator describes how compositions of coins are analyzed in numismatic laboratories around the world. Using X-ray fluorescence, XRF, devices, metallurgists could determine the exact materials present in a coin without damaging it. If a 2008 penny truly had a copper core instead of zinc, the device would detect that unmistakably. And according to circulating rumors, at least one specimen tested had shown readings far closer to a pre-1982 copper penny than a standard zinc one. No official documentation or public report ever confirmed this, but collectors claimed that the information leaked privately from insiders who had seen the results firsthand. Meanwhile, the narrator transitions to the storyline of the alleged private sale, the one that fueled the legend more than anything else. Several years after these rare reports surfaced, a mysterious transaction supposedly took place involving a wealthy foreign collector with a fascination for rare American cents. Some claimed he paid 8 figures for the coin. Others insisted the price was even higher. The most sensational claim stated that the buyer had paid an astonishing $40 million for a pristine example of the 2008 copper anomaly. While no auction house ever confirmed the sale, private deals in high-end numismatics are known to reach levels the public rarely sees. Rare $1,794 gold eagles and early mint errors have sold privately for sums that never appear in official records. So while the story sounded outrageous, it was not impossible. This rumor created a ripple effect throughout the industry. Coin investors began shifting their attention toward modern mint errors more seriously. Auction houses noticed increases in demand for unusual coins from the 2000s and 2010s. Video creators, bloggers, and online collectors began sharing stories about how modern coins could be worth extraordinary amounts due to errors or test strikes. And among all those modern issues, the 2008 penny became the king of speculation. With the rising public fascination, the market value of any unusual 2008 cent began to climb. A coin with signs of doubling, strange toning, or slightly heavier weight could attract huge bidding interest. Collectors purchased precision scales, magnifying loupes, and XRF detectors for home use, all in hopes of discovering a hidden rarity. Pawn shops reported an unexpected increase in people bringing bags of pennies to be evaluated. Online sellers began offering unsearched rolls of 2008 coins at inflated prices, claiming they could contain the rare copper anomaly. At this point, the narrator draws the viewer deeper into the psychological landscape behind all this. Humans have always been captivated by the promise of discovery. Whether it is gold in ancient rivers, lost treasure in shipwrecks, dinosaur fossils beneath cliffs, or rare coins in everyday pocket change, the longing for discovery is timeless. The 2008 penny, because of its tiny size and humble appearance, embodies that longing perfectly. It symbolizes hope, the hope that perhaps anyone, anywhere, even someone with only a handful of pocket change, could stumble upon a treasure worth millions. The camera then follows the narrator's voice into an exploration of minting technology and quality control in 2008. High-speed presses stamp billions of coins each year, operating at incredible speed, sometimes up to 750 coins per minute. Within that speed, even the slightest calibration error can cause differences in strike pressure, die alignment, or planchet feed timing. These differences, while usually insignificant, can sometimes create errors that become valuable. Off-center strikes, double strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets all fall into this category, but the rarest of all errors is when a coin is struck on the wrong metal. This is what makes the possibility of a 2008 copper penny so extraordinary. It suggests that the minting process accidentally used a leftover copper planchet that had no business being in production decades after its discontinuation. Such an error would be far more dramatic and valuable than a simple misstrike. And historically, coins struck on wrong metal planchets have fetched millions, like the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent and the 1974 aluminum Lincoln cent. The narrator continues explaining that only a handful of advanced collectors truly understand how rare such occurrences are, and how intense the competition becomes when such coins surface. The 2008 penny, by entering this category of legendary errors, joined the same ranks, at least in rumor, of the most iconic mint mistakes in American history. The storyline shifts toward how major grading companies handled the sudden influx of submissions. Certified graders must maintain strict neutrality and scientific accuracy, but even they acknowledge that certain coins spark more curiosity than others. When unusual 2008 pennies appeared, they received deeper scrutiny, internal discussions, extended analysis, and sometimes even re-examinations by multiple graders. Some coins received the label of mint error, while others were returned as normal. But the few that raised the most questions, the ones with abnormal weight or surprising composition readings, became the focus of intense speculation. The narrator adds tension by describing how even today, no one outside certain private circles knows whether the legendary $40 million coin truly exists. Some believe it does. Others think it is fabrication or exaggeration. But the mystery itself creates value. In the world of rare collectibles, a story can be as powerful as the object itself. A coin with a legend behind it, even an unverified one, can capture hearts, fuel imaginations, and increase demand beyond anything practical. The story continues with the same slow, mesmerizing tone as the documentary transitions into another layer of the 2008 1-cent coin mystery, diving not only into the world of collectors and minting anomalies but now into the broader cultural phenomenon that arose around this single, tiny piece of metal. As the narrator's voice returns, the camera glides over scenes of everyday people searching through jars of change, pouring pennies across their tables, weighing them with delicate precision scales, squinting through magnifiers in hopes of discovering the impossible. It becomes clear that the 2008 penny was no longer just a coin, it had transformed into a symbol of possibility. The narrator explains that people from all backgrounds, from mechanics to teachers to retirees, had become part of a global treasure hunt. Videos spread across social media in multiple languages, showing enthusiasts teaching viewers how to examine their coins, how to look for weight differences, how to detect unusual coloring that might indicate a copper planchet, how to compare the rims, how to detect double lettering. The world of numismatics, once considered niche and technical, suddenly felt alive, accessible, and thrilling to everyone. The 2008 penny was drawing people into a hobby they never knew existed. Collectors who had spent decades attending small coin shows now saw their once quiet gatherings filled with new faces, people who came not to buy rare 19th century coins but to understand how a modern penny could be worth millions. Dealers found themselves explaining mint processes to crowds who listened with newfound fascination. It was as if the magic of discovery had awakened a dormant curiosity in society. A tiny copper-colored disc had managed to bridge worlds, the world of experts and the world of ordinary people, the world of fact and the world of legend, and as the narrator continues, he reveals the deeper emotional and psychological dimensions behind this fascination. Humans have always been storytellers, always searching for meaning in objects. Throughout history, ordinary items have become extraordinary when attached to stories, relics of saints, artifacts from lost civilizations, or simple objects found in the pockets of historical figures. The 2008 1-cent coin began to occupy such a place in the imagination. It represented something more than monetary value. It symbolized the idea that the universe could hide miracles in the most ordinary places, but as the story deepened, another element emerged: competition. People have always been competitive, driven by the desire to be the first, the only, or the lucky one. With the rumor of a $40 million sale circulating, the desire to discover another rare specimen intensified. The narrator described scenes where families gathered around kitchen tables comparing coins, siblings competing to find heavier specimens, parents teaching their children how to spot irregularities. This competition wasn't harmful, it created shared moments, new memories, and a sense of teamwork. A coin worth 1 cent had somehow inspired people to connect. The documentary then shifts to reveal how the obsession grew within professional numismatic circles. Researchers started writing academic-style papers about the 2008 anomaly, exploring possibilities that challenged conventional minting knowledge. Some hypothesized that the mint might have conducted hidden compositional tests in 2008 due to rising metal prices. Others speculated that leftover copper blanks from decades earlier may have been rediscovered during warehouse cleanouts. And still others proposed an even stranger theory, that private companies contracted for experimental production might have accidentally created a batch of copper-based cents. None of these theories could be confirmed, but all were explored in depth. Online numismatic forums, normally quiet and technical, became battlegrounds of debate. Posts thousands of words long appeared, full of charts, weigh-in records, metallurgical references, and comparisons to other known transitional errors. Heated discussions broke out, some arguing that any copper 2008 cent was impossible, others insisting that history had proven the mint capable of producing impossible coins before. The narrator underscores how this clash of opinions fueled the mystery even further, and then the documentary brings the viewer into a deeper introspection, focusing on the hidden corners of the minting world. Few people realize how massive and complex the United States Mint's operations truly are. Billions of planchets move through conveyor systems, bins, hoppers, and automated feed lines. Thousands of dies are manufactured, polished, replaced, retooled, and tested. Entire rooms of high-speed presses operate simultaneously, each capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute. Within this seemingly predictable machine lies immense complexity. Even the slightest human oversight, mechanical failure, or procedural deviation can create a chain reaction that results in rare and unexpected coins. The narrator lingers on the idea that the mint is like a living organism, one with rhythms, patterns, and occasional irregularities. These irregularities, though small, can produce coins that defy official documentation. And because the minting process involves such massive quantities of materials and machinery, even a mistake involving a handful of planchets can go unnoticed. This revelation adds to the sense that the 2008 copper anomaly isn't merely fantasy, it could be the hidden product of this vast, complex organism. Here the film transitions into the emotional world of collectors who spent years searching for rare coins and suddenly saw the 2008 penny as their ultimate test. Some collectors admitted becoming obsessed. One man reportedly spent every evening for 2 years examining thousands of pennies, filling a notebook with detailed observations on die varieties, surface anomalies, and subtle weight differences. Another collector traveled across several states to buy entire boxes of uncirculated 2008 rolls from small-town banks. These individuals weren't driven purely by greed, many were driven by passion, by the thrill of the hunt, by the joy of discovery, and by the hope that they could uncover a piece of history that had eluded everyone else. The music builds as the narrator reveals that as more people searched, more strange specimens surfaced, coins with odd coloration, slightly unusual weights, or unexpected die traits. Not all were extraordinary, but each one added to the narrative. Some collectors documented subtle discrepancies in the shape of the digits in the date. Others found pennies with unexpected shine or unusually deep relief, fueling speculation of experimental planchets or unique press calibrations. Every new observation added another layer to the growing legend. At this point, the documentary follows the trail of one of the most debated specimens, the coin rumored to be the $40 million piece. The narrator describes how it allegedly passed through several hands before disappearing into private ownership. Some claimed it originated from a coin machine at a grocery store. Others believed it was found in an inherited coin jar. Still others insisted it came from a mint worker who kept it unknowingly. The lack of a confirmed origin only strengthened the myth, making the specimen feel like a ghost that existed just beyond the reach of public knowledge. The narrator emphasizes how powerful myths can be in shaping reality. Whether or not the $40 million coin truly exists, the belief in its existence has already changed the market. It altered how people view modern coins. It sparked debates, encouraged new collectors, and breathed life into a hobby that had begun to feel stagnant. And in doing so, it transformed the 2008 1-cent coin into one of the most culturally significant modern coins in existence, not because of official documentation, but because of collective fascination. As Part 7 continues, the documentary ventures into the economic ripple effect triggered by this phenomenon. Coin dealers saw rising profits. Online auctions saw increased traffic. Even manufacturers of coin collecting supplies, scales, coin holders, magnifiers experienced spikes in sales. The 2008 penny had become an economic force, influencing small markets across the country. And with that influence came even more stories, more rumors, and more theories. The camera fades slowly as the narrator prepares to dive even deeper into the consequences, controversies, and future mysteries surrounding this legendary penny. The narration resumes with a quiet, atmospheric tone, the camera drifting over dimly lit scenes of shelves filled with coin albums, old magnifiers, and dusty library books containing decades-old mint records. The air feels heavy with curiosity as the narrator's voice gently returns, drawing the viewer deeper into the labyrinth of events surrounding the 2008 1-cent coin. The legend had grown so powerful, so widespread, that it had begun generating waves far outside the world of numismatics. It became more than a rare coin story, it evolved into a cultural phenomenon that seemed to reach every corner of society. The narrator describes how news outlets, blogs, podcasts, and social media influencers seized on the mystique of the 2008 penny. Articles appeared with tantalizing headlines suggesting that people should check their pockets immediately. Videos racked up millions of views showing amateurs weighing pennies on small kitchen scales. Reporters interviewed individuals who had dedicated their lives to the search. The frenzy was not driven by official confirmation but by the psychology of possibility. And the idea that a single 1-cent coin minted in 2008 could be worth $40 million, more than multiple mansions combined, was enough to ignite imaginations across the globe. As the documentary moves forward, the narrator dives deeper into the hidden world of private collectors. Among the wealthiest collectors, the competition to own the rarest coin is fierce, almost secretive. These individuals treat coins not merely as objects, but as historical artifacts, treasures, investments, and in some cases, symbols of achievement. A coin like the rumored 2008 copper anomaly would be their ultimate trophy, the kind of item only the most elite could acquire. The narrator describes how these collectors often store their rare coins in private vaults with reinforced steel doors, fingerprint locks, and climate control systems designed specifically to preserve numismatic artifacts. In these vaults, one might find early colonial coins, classic gold pieces, rare double die errors, and perhaps, hidden among them, the mysterious 2008 penny that sparked worldwide obsession. The scene transitions into a deeper exploration of minting procedures. The narrator elaborates on how coins begin their life as raw metal strips, fed into powerful machines that punch circular planchets like cookies from dough. These planchets are then processed, washed, and prepared before being struck by dies. With billions of coins moving through the system each year, it becomes impossible for human eyes to inspect every single one. Here lies the doorway to human error, an error so subtle, so small, yet capable of producing a coin that could change the course of numismatic history. The narrator explains that even though copper planchets were officially discontinued decades earlier, the mint's massive storage systems, supply contracts, and transfer bins could theoretically hold surprises. Planchets could be mixed. Machinery could feed the wrong blanks. Old metal stock could have been mislabeled, forgotten, or accidentally reused. History offers precedents: the 1943 bronze cent, the 1983 copper cent, and the 1990 no-S proof cent all resulted from mistakes hidden deep within minting operations. Every time experts claimed such errors were impossible, reality proved them wrong. The 2008 penny, therefore, was not an anomaly without precedent, it was simply the next chapter in a long history of unexpected minting mysteries. The narrator dives into the chilling sense of anticipation that collectors felt, as though they were on the edge of discovering a new chapter in numismatic history. Forums were filled with discussion threads thousands of comments long. Some collectors posted high-resolution images of their findings, seeking validation. Others insisted they had coins with unusual weight or color variations. And though most claims did not stand up to professional scrutiny, the sheer number of attempts reflected a growing obsession, one driven partly by hope and partly by the lure of unimaginable wealth. At this point, the film takes a psychological turn, exploring how hope becomes a powerful force. The narrator describes how ordinary people, inspired by stories of found treasures, began carefully checking their coins. For some, it wasn't about money, it was about the thrill, the sense of adventure, the idea of participating in something extraordinary. People who had never cared about coins now felt a connection to history. Some individuals even found joy in teaching their families about minting, composition, history, and the concepts behind rare errors. What had begun as a rumor had evolved into a movement of knowledge and curiosity. The documentary now shifts to the financial side of the phenomenon. The narrator describes how coin grading companies saw their submission numbers skyrocket. Tens of thousands of 2008 pennies poured in from around the world. Many came from people hoping their coin would be the next treasure. Grading firms had to expand staff, extend working hours, and bring in more experts to handle the influx. Even though only a tiny fraction of these coins showed unusual traits, the sheer volume of submissions demonstrated how deeply the story had embedded itself into public consciousness. Meanwhile, auction houses began preparing for the possibility of a confirmed specimen entering public sale. Auctioneers speculated privately about what such a coin could fetch in an open bidding environment. Some predicted $10 million. Others said $20 million. A few bold voices suggested that with the right marketing, the price could exceed even the alleged $40 million private sale. A coin so rare, so controversial, and so legendary could attract collectors from across the world: billionaires, investors, museums, and institutions all competing for ownership. The narrator explains that auctions for legendary coins are often dramatic, filled with tension, live bidding wars, and phone calls from bidders halfway across the globe. The idea that the 2008 penny could one day enter such a stage added to its mythic aura. The documentary then investigates how the rumor of the $40 million sale first emerged. Some believed it began with a private forum post from a well-known collector who claimed to have personal connections with someone involved in the transaction. Others said it originated from whispers among coin dealers at a major convention. And still others argued the story was a clever marketing tactic invented by someone hoping to boost interest in modern coins. The narrator points out that despite the lack of concrete confirmation, the story refused to die. The reason was simple: the human mind is captivated by the idea of vast wealth hidden in plain sight. In an emotional segment, the narrator describes how some people became so invested in the search that they considered it part of their identity. One collector said searching for the rare 2008 penny gave him purpose after retirement. Another said it brought his family closer, creating moments of bonding they never had before. A third described how the search helped him escape from stress and gave him something meaningful to look forward to. These personal stories illustrated how the impact of the 2008 penny extended far beyond money. It touched lives in ways no one expected. The film takes on a mysterious tone as the narrator describes unexplained events associated with the search. Collectors reported receiving anonymous emails warning them not to pursue certain leads. Others claimed to have been contacted by individuals claiming to have inside information but refusing to share it publicly. Some believed these were hoaxes, while others felt they were clues pointing to deeper truths. Whether real or imagined, these interactions added a sense of intrigue and suspense to the unfolding legend. The documentary now enters a phase where it questions the nature of rarity itself. The narrator explains that rarity is not merely about numbers, it is about significance. A coin can be rare because only a few exist, but it becomes valuable because people believe in its story. Stories are what elevate objects from simple items to cultural icons. The 2008 penny had already reached that status. Its story, true, exaggerated, or mythical, had embedded itself into modern numismatic folklore, and as Part 8 reaches its deep, atmospheric conclusion, the narrator hints that the next part of the story will venture into the consequences, controversies, and long-term legacy of the 2008 penny phenomenon. The search continues, the mystery deepens, and the world watches, wondering if another legendary coin will one day emerge from someone's pocket change. The story re-enters with an eerie calm, as the screen fades in on an old desk illuminated by a single lamp. Scattered across it are magnifiers, copper-tone pennies, yellow documents, and handwritten notes filled with questions, diagrams, arrows, and dates. The narrator's voice slowly returns, deep and steady, continuing the tale of the 2008 1-cent coin's legend. What began as a rumor had now evolved into something larger than anyone anticipated, a force shaping conversations, careers, and even the future of numismatics. The narrator describes how the fascination with the 2008 penny began pushing researchers, historians, and metal analysts to revisit archival mint data. People started diving into obscure corners of mint history, reading warehouse reports, checking procurement files, examining metallurgical testing logs, and cross-referencing delivery receipts from copper suppliers. They went through thousands of pages, hoping for a clue that could explain how a copper planchet might have entered the minting process in 2008. They investigated every possibility, no matter how unlikely. The narrator explains that every theory had followers and critics. Some argued that no copper planchets existed after 1982 in any operational area, making such an error nearly impossible. Others countered by pointing out that even sealed crates can be misplaced, misidentified, or inadvertently used decades later. After all, the mint handles such a massive volume of materials that even a rare mistake could theoretically occur undetected. Then there were the conspiracy theories, ideas that someone inside the mint, perhaps a worker nearing retirement or someone passionate about numismatics, intentionally created the coin as a kind of artistic statement or hidden signature. However far-fetched, these theories gained traction because they appeal to the imagination. The idea of a rogue mint employee crafting a legendary coin in secret, knowing it would one day spark global fascination, was thrilling to many collectors. As the camera moves through dimly lit hallways of mint facilities, past locked doors, silent machinery, and towering metal racks, the narrator deepens the sense of mystery. The mint, for all its precision, remains a labyrinth behind the scenes. Most people only see the polished exterior, never the vast operational complexity within. This complexity is precisely what makes the story of the 2008 penny both believable and unbelievable at the same time. The film shifts its tone toward the human element, focusing on the people whose lives had become entwined with the legend. Stories surface of individuals who spent late nights examining penny rolls. Some bought bulk bags from banks, searching tirelessly through thousands of coins. Others purchased coin sorting machines, dedicating weekends to analyzing every weight variation and every color tone. Penny hunting evolved from a casual hobby into a global quest. The narrator describes the emotional journey of such individuals, the thrill of discovery when a penny appears slightly heavier, the crushing disappointment when it turns out to be normal, the hope rekindled by every rumor, and the quiet satisfaction of participating in a worldwide treasure hunt. Even those who never found anything unusual felt connected to something greater, a shared pursuit woven from curiosity, ambition, hope, and history. Meanwhile, coin dealers began noticing a distinct shift in the market. The value of certain varieties from 2008 started rising simply because interest was so high. Even ordinary 2008 pennies in pristine condition gained small premiums. And though none of these coins had any connection to the mythical $40 million specimen, their prices reflected the psychological ripple effect created by the legend. Collectors wanted a piece of the story, even if only a symbolic one. The narrator explains how the legend influenced the grading industry as well. Experts began developing new tests, new imaging techniques, and new spectroscopic analysis methods to detect copper density variations in metal impurities with higher precision. Labs upgraded equipment, adding more advanced microbalances and laser-based metal analyzers. In a strange way, the rumor unintentionally pushed numismatics forward technologically, improving accuracy and scientific capabilities in the field. Private collectors continued whispering about the alleged $40 million sale. Many believed the buyer was a high-profile figure, possibly an international billionaire, a museum founder, or a private investor with a passion for rare artifacts. Some speculated that the buyer insisted on absolute confidentiality, making it impossible for the sale to surface publicly. Stories circulated of secretive meetings, private vault inspections, and untraceable transactions involving intermediaries who specialized in rare collectibles. None of this could be proven, yet the lack of evidence only strengthened the mystery. The narrative grows even more intense as the documentary explores the culture of secrecy among ultra-wealthy collectors. These individuals rarely reveal their acquisitions. Their collections are often stored in remote vaults, accessible only to a select few. Some collectors believe that revealing ownership of a legendary item invites security risks, unwanted attention, or massive pressure from museums and institutions. As the narrator explains, secrecy becomes part of the object's aura. Its myth grows larger precisely because it cannot be seen. The film then touches on the role of museums. Institutions around the world began quietly monitoring any lead or rumor of a confirmed copper 2008 specimen. Museum curators acknowledged that adding such a piece to their collections would draw massive attention. Countless visitors would come not only to see a rare coin but to witness a living piece of modern folklore. Museums imagined exhibits exploring minting history, error coins, metallurgical science, and the cultural impact of the 2008 phenomenon. Yet without proof of a genuine specimen available for acquisition, they could only wait in anticipation. As the documentary approaches a deeper psychological layer, the narrator reflects on humanity's connection to treasure, how stories of hidden riches have existed since ancient civilizations. Whether it's buried gold, ancient artifacts, lost scrolls, or rare coins, the idea of discovering something priceless speaks to primal instincts. The desire to uncover something rare, something no one else has, becomes a powerful force. It drives explorers, historians, collectors, and dreamers alike. The 2008 penny simply became the modern version of this ancient desire, a small copper emblem representing possibility itself. The narrator expands on the sociology behind the phenomenon, explaining how scarcity increases perceived value. Even without verification, the mere possibility that a copper 2008 penny exists transforms it from ordinary currency into a symbol of hope. For some, that hope is financial, for others, it is emotional. And for many, it is simply the joy of participating in a global mystery. Humans are storytellers, and objects that carry stories, particularly ones that blur the line between truth and rumor, become powerful cultural icons. The scene darkens slightly, adding tension. The narrator explains that as the legend grew, controversies began to arise. Some people accused sellers of exploiting the hype by misrepresenting ordinary coins as rare anomalies. Others warned new collectors to be cautious of scams. Experts stepped forward to educate the public, reminding them of proper testing procedures, weight tolerances, and metal analysis methods. Despite these warnings, the hype continued because the emotional pull of possibility outweighed caution. The narrator reveals that even now, ordinary coins that appear heavier due to surface buildup. But every claim, even false ones, reignites the conversation and keeps the legend alive. The documentary concludes Part 9 by painting a vivid picture of where the world stands today, caught between skepticism and belief, between evidence and legend, between history and myth. The narrator's voice becomes calm and reflective, explaining that the search for the 2008 penny continues not because of its monetary value, but because the story has become larger than the coin itself. It represents curiosity, ambition, mystery, and the boundless human imagination. The final moments of Part 9 slow down as the camera pans over millions of pennies glimmering under soft warehouse lights. The narrator hints that the next part will explore the long-term legacy of the 2008 penny, the future of the search, and the deeper implications of chasing something so rare, so elusive, and so deeply symbolic. The final chapter begins with the faint echo of a ticking clock, a subtle reminder of time passing, of years slipping away, and of the countless moments people have spent searching, hoping, imagining, and dreaming about a small copper coin that may or may not exist. The camera slowly moves across an abandoned wooden table marked by scratches, fingerprints, and memories, signs of all the collectors who once sat there, hunched over, examining pennies under harsh lamps with tired eyes and unwavering determination. Dust floats gently in the light as the narrator's voice returns, softer now, as though speaking not just to the viewers but to history itself. The narrator reflects on how the legend of the 2008 copper penny had become something far more profound than a simple numismatic curiosity. It was a reminder of human nature, how people cling to wonders, how mysteries ignite something deep within the heart, how stories evolve and spread far beyond their origins. It was never truly about the monetary value, though the mythical $40 million figure remains etched in the collective imagination like a shimmering beacon. It was never only about metal composition, weight variations, or minting anomalies. At its core, the legend became a testament to the enduring belief that treasures still exist in the modern world, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice them. The scene transitions to an old man sitting by a window, gently rotating a penny between his fingers. His hands tremble slightly, not from age, but from the weight of memories. He spent decades searching for rare coins, studying mint records, attending conventions, corresponding with experts, and chasing rumors. The narrator explains that he, like many others, never found the elusive 2008 copper penny, but he found something else: friendship, purpose, and a connection to a story bigger than himself. He smiles faintly as he looks at the coin in his hand, as if he knows something no one else does. Then he places it on the windowsill, where sunlight strikes it just right, making it glow a warm copper orange. The camera never reveals whether it is the fabled coin. The choice is intentional. The mystery remains alive. The film now travels to a deserted mint viewing gallery. Rows of machines stand silent, their metallic bodies reflecting faint beams of light. The narrator speaks about how billions of coins have passed through these machines, coins destined for pockets, cash registers, piggy banks, and circulation bags. Somewhere among these rivers of metal, one coin, if it truly exists, escaped unnoticed, quietly beginning its journey into the world, carrying within it the power to spark awe, curiosity, and limitless speculation. The narrator explains that in a world driven by digital currency, online transactions, and modern technology, the idea that a single piece of metal could hold legendary status feels almost poetic. It reminds people of the old days when treasure maps, pirate gold, and lost artifacts fueled imaginations. And perhaps that is what gives the 2008 penny its enduring charm. It is a relic of mystery in a time where answers are expected to be instant, where everything is traceable, documented, recorded. But this story defies that norm. It remains elusive, intangible, unconfirmed, unstoppable. The camera shifts to scenes of ordinary people around the world: students checking coin jars, workers examining pocket change on lunch breaks, collectors studying coins under magnifiers, families spreading penny rolls on kitchen tables and sorting them together. Each moment reflects the universal simple joy of searching. The narrator explains that even if most of these people never find anything unusual, they find something else: excitement, bonding, learning, discovery, and the pleasure of holding a tiny piece of history. Then the narrator returns to the world of wealthy collectors, describing how private vaults remain sealed, their contents a mystery. Perhaps, somewhere behind reinforced doors, lies the rumored $40 million penny. Or perhaps the story is only an echo of a rumor, carried forward by belief alone. Either way, the legend persists because humans are storytellers. And this particular story refused to fade because everyone loves the possibility of the impossible. The film reaches a reflective silence as the narrator begins to speak about legacy. The 2008 penny, mythical, rare, perhaps real, perhaps imagined, has shaped the culture of coin collecting in ways few modern coins ever have. It inspired new collectors, revived interest in mint history, and encouraged deeper research into composition analysis and minting processes. Even the grading companies became more advanced because of the demand for precision tests. Museums updated their exhibits to include explanations of error coins, minting anomalies, and the 2008 legend itself. The ripple effects continue to this day. The camera pans across a vast ocean of pennies, millions of them shimmering under warehouse lights like tiny copper stars scattered across a galaxy. Somewhere in that sea, perhaps hidden, perhaps lost, perhaps found long ago, could be the mysterious penny that sparked the global phenomenon. Or perhaps the legend was greater than the coin itself, a story meant to inspire rather than reveal. The narrator explains that the true treasure was never the coin but the journey. The late-night research, the community discussions, the shared excitement, the global hunt, the endless curiosity, these were the real riches. People came together not because they were guaranteed wealth, but because they were united by wonder. The 2008 penny became a symbol of hope, reminding everyone that even in ordinary things, like a common coin, extraordinary possibilities can exist. As the final moments begin, the narrator's voice grows softer, deeper, almost whisper-like. The film slowly zooms out from the warehouse of pennies until the entire scene becomes blurred copper light. In the distance, a faint glow appears, as if one coin is shining a little brighter than the rest. It is impossible to tell if this is real or simply imagination playing its tricks. The narrator leaves the interpretation to the viewers, stating that every legend becomes a mirror reflecting what people wish to believe. The last paragraph brings everything together in a poetic ending. The narrator says that whether or not the 2008 copper penny is ever found, whether or not the $40 million sale was real or rumor, the story will live on. It will echo through time, whispered at coin shows, debated in collector forums, passed down to new generations. Perhaps one day the truth will surface. Or perhaps the mystery will remain intact forever. And somewhere, in the heart of every collector, the hope continues, the belief that the next coin they pick up might just be the legendary one. As the screen slowly fades to black, the narrator's final words resonate with a quiet power, lingering like a final breath of the story itself. Sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest mysteries. Sometimes the simplest objects hold the greatest dreams. And sometimes, a single penny can change the world.